Good morning. It is the Morning Buzz. Today is April 14th. I am your host, Filipe Costa, and of course, I'm here with my co-host, Dani Romanow. How are you doing, Danny?
Good morning. Still looking on my coffee. How are you?
I'm all right. I finished my coffee. I want another cup already, but the show has to go on whether or not I have my coffee. We, of course, have our wonderful newscaster and burgeoning pop star, Hallie over here. How are you doing, Hallie?
I'm great. How are you?
Don't worry, we're not forgetting the fact that
Oh
you
my
you have you have a great music career ahead of you. But we have some great stuff for you this morning. We have obviously the latest on COVID-19. We have some stories about making music in quarantine, struggles with the new Animal Crossing game, a news hotline for isolated seniors. The current way we online news is limited to us and other stuff. But I think before we go into any stories, we're going to throw it over to you and the newscast.
Good morning. President Trump is talking about reopening the economy as early as next month, saying in his daily briefing, quote, "I'm going to make decisions very quickly and I hope they are the right decisions," end quote, saying that this is ultimately up to him. Along with that, the New York State death toll is more than 10,000 due to COVID-19. Governor Cuomo says the number of hospitalizations seems to be leveling off. Cuomo, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, and the governors of other Northeast states agreed to form a task force to develop the regional plan to reopen the economy when the time comes. Cuomo is disputing President Trump's claims of total authority to reopen the states. The governor of California may be about to let up on some statewide restrictions. Governor Newsom may release details today, expecting to lift some stay-at-home orders, but things would still be far from pre-virus normal. You can expect that before you walk into a restaurant or a bar that people will still be wearing a mask, and some establishments may take your temperature to make sure you are not sick. A new virus test developed by Rutgers University is safer for healthcare workers and less annoying for patients. The test uses saliva as primary biomaterial, which was approved by the FDA for SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus. The weather today is 48 degrees, sun mixing with clouds, and a high of 58. And that's all we got for the newscast.
Let's see. I'm actually going to check how the weather is right here in because I'm in Newark because we're all still social distancing, of course, because we're being
Yes.
responsible. It's 50 where I'm at. Supposed to hit 55 high, low of
Yeah.
40. Uh, Partly cloudy right now, but cloudy the rest of the day. We've had rain for the past couple days around here. How about the weather by you too?
Well, up here in Pennsylvania, it's only 43 degrees right now with a high of 53 and a low of 35, but I guess that's what happens when you live in the mountains.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in like really rural central Jersey. I It's about 46 here. It's gonna be a high of like 55, 56.
Mhm.
It's been weird because it was really
Lucky.
rainy yesterday.
Yeah, so let's throw it over to the COVID visualizer now that we're wrapped up with weather and see how things are going on around the world. Because no matter what's going on, we got to keep informed and make sure we know how across the world everything's happening. We, of course, here at the United States, we have just over 520,000 active cases, over 23,000 unfortunately deceased, but close to 37,000 people have recovered, four deceased and 232 cases today.
Mhm.
We're going to go over to Spain real quick. They've been one of the hot spots in comparison. Just close to 87,000 active cases. A little bit over 18,000 have been deceased, but about 75,500 have recovered, and they're starting little by little to show some improvement to the point where one of their soccer teams, I believe it's Malaga, is deciding to soon start practice again. So that's always a good sign to be able to see that. We'll go over to China real quick. The uh, the big epicenter to begin with. Um, just a little over 1,000 active, over 3,000 deceased, and over 77,000 recovered. We do have 89 new cases today, which is interesting to see because they have eased some restrictions as of late. Um, do you want to go anywhere else, or yeah, I think we're good for now. But yeah, let's go. Let's just talk about some stories. And I think a big one yesterday was the Trump and his presidency's task force. Uh, a very interesting day for that. He turned it really into a defensive record, and at one point was even showing a video uh, about how well he handled it according to his according to his people, and trying to show that he was on top of it the entire time while the news media was taking a step back and just relaxing, which isn't necessarily
No.
true.
No.
There was one very striking situation, and I can share it real quick. Probably the most striking part of that was hold on. The most
Wait,
striking part of it was his treatment of a CNN reporter. So I'm gonna share this real quick.
So you're saying that President Trump is saying that he took care of everything and was doing everything immediately?
Yeah, he was saying that he was on top of it from the get-go, and that the news wasn't really covering the proper way that he handled it. I'm going to start playing this video, which is the back and forth he had with a reporter at one point.
You used it to prepare hospitals. You didn't use it to ramp up testing. Right now,
you're so disgraceful. It's so disgraceful the way you said it. Let me just listen. I just went over it. I just went over it.
In an unprecedented crisis.
Nobody thought we should do it, and when I did it.
But what did you do with the time that you bought?
You know
the
we
month
did.
of February.
You know we did.
Was a gap.
What do you do?
Month of February.
What do you do when you have no case in the whole United States?
You had cases
when
in February.
excuse me, you reported it. 0 cases, 0 deaths on January 17th.
February, the entire
January.
month of
I said in
Your video
January.
has a complete gap.
On January 30th.
What did your administration do in February with the time that your travel ban bought
A
you?
lot.
What?
A lot. And in fact, we'll give you a list. What we did, in fact, part of it was up there. We did a lot. Look. You know you're a fake. You know that. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. And most of you, and not all of you, but the people are wise to you. That's why you have a lower approval rating than you've ever had before, times probably 3. And when you ask me that question, let me ask you this: why did Biden apologize? Why did he write a letter of apology? No, that's very important. Why did the Democrats think that I acted too quickly? You know what?
So I'll just cut it there real quick, but you can see, very, very, very. There were pieces that were a little bit out of context. There were pieces that he was very much trying to spin the story his way, the usual way in which Trump approaches the news. He was talking about how the news reported on the 17th that there were no cases, no deaths. But the CNN reporter specifically pointed out the fact that in the video that Trump and his administration played, there was no information about February. It jumped from January to March. And you saw the chyron on the bottom where it says Trump refuses to admit the truth. And then it changed at one point. Angry Trump turns briefing into propaganda session. And that was the chyron throughout the entire thing. It was just straight up pointing out, like not even acknowledging and fact checking, just basically saying that's what it was. And a lot of the stuff Trump was trying to say, we're handling it this way, we're handling it that way. It seems like it's become a shift towards campaigning for re-election as opposed to handling the pandemic, which I understand. He's going to need to campaign to get reelected. He is, going to be running for his reelection. I think any other president in this situation would have to make time to campaign. Just the thing, Trump isn't every other president. Trump has always had his own way of approaching the presidency. I'm going to show my hand a little bit and say that I don't agree with the way he goes for it. But I think we're here not talking about our personal opinions, but just talking about the facts that there was an entire video that was really just promoting the way that Trump's presidency handled it in his eyes and in the administration's eyes. And as that reporter pointed out, it missed an entire month where the news was reporting the slowly growing pandemic here in the United States, and he just kept brushing it off, and his people kept basically saying,
yo, this is actually an issue. We should maybe take care of it, because it was because the president wasn't actually thinking anything about it that everyone thought the media was just panicking. The media was portraying things differently, which made the population start panicking, and then people started not taking it seriously because the president wasn't taking it seriously. And that's why the whole month of February is just kind of lost, because nobody really knew what was going on, because everyone thought that everything was fine, Like,
Yeah,
when the president's not worrying about it.
it's important to remember the influence of the president, no matter who is the president. Um, you know, if you're in office, you hold a certain place of esteem and a certain place of power that you need to sit there, and what you say will, sway people's opinions. No matter who the president is, people listen to Trump. People believe in Trump. So he holds the responsibility to be informed. Um, we have a situation where the briefings are here for news. When we turn into Governor Murphy's meetings, we need to tune into Cuomo's meetings, the meetings held by the governor of Massachusetts, Connecticut, the governor in Pennsylvania. I imagine we're getting news, we're getting information. We're above 23,000 deaths in the United States so far reported. We don't even know if there's some deaths that could not be reported as coronavirus, depending on some people may pass away without getting tested, and you may not find out until later that they were coronavirus deaths.
There probably definitely are, and I know for a fact that the number of cases that, the health professionals say there are isn't actually the amount of cases there are, because there are some people who haven't gotten tested and just have very minor cases of it. There are people that are just staying at home because it's a minor case, so they're not really worrying about it.
There is back in December, January, my aunt works at a travel agency, and one of her customers said that she went to the hospital with flu and pneumonia-like symptoms, but was tested for the flu and didn't test positive for the flu, didn't really get a chance to test for strep or anything. And obviously she's not a medical professional. And they can't really check. The most they can probably do now is check her for antibodies. But there's a good chance that there have been people in this country that have gotten not as serious cases of coronavirus and survived them, because that's usually how these pandemics start. There was at one point in Washington where they wanted to start testing early, and they were told not to because of the optics that it would show. And I think we can go into some California news where we have pastors suing over church service restrictions in the state. There are 3 pastors who are specifically suing because, according to them, Californians have been denied their fundamental rights of freedom of religion. In specifically, talking about the fact that they can't go to church and the churches are closed. You have Governor Gavin Newsom. He's one of the targets of the lawsuit itself, because he issued the stay-at-home order on March 19th for non-essential businesses, and churches are considered non-essential businesses. You still have people gathering. Sacramento County, 71 people were linked to a single church that became infected. It's rough. It's rough right now because we just had Easter this Sunday. We had Passover Wednesday last week. And a lot of people were doing stuff virtually. There was the virtual Seder that different Jewish celebrities were doing. We had virtual Easter. My family, we thankfully are around each other enough that we can see each other. Just not my grandparents, unfortunately, but my aunt and uncle who live with my grandparents came to visit us and just hang out for a little bit. My aunt and my little cousin come visit every once in a while because we help her out with homework. I understand these priests being upset, and we understand Passover and Easter are very important. But we have churches here in New Jersey doing virtual mass. We have there was a funny thing where I saw my friend sent me. It was someone posting a picture of their parents who had pews in their house while they were watching. They had like a 2-person pew that they were watching the mass from in their living room.
Interesting. Like, how does that?
I do want to know, like, did you have it made beforehand?
Or did you just take it from a
Did
church? Did you just go into a church, say like, "Hey, can I have this?" and they say, "Yeah," or did you just steal it?
Oh, if you steal it, imagine the confession afterwards.
Yeah.
You have to go in, "Father, I have sinned. I stole a pew," and the priest just opens the door and comes in. It's like, "What are you talking about? What did you do?"
Like, I
Um,
stole a pew. You're the one who did it.
exactly. But like in all seriousness, we need to understand there was a video of this lady that went viral saying that she's fine and she won't get infected because she's protected by the blood of Christ. And it's just like I never want to disrespect someone's beliefs. Like
Mhm.
that is the last thing anyone wants to ever do. But there are some people that genuinely do have these beliefs that they're protected like that. There was one of the mega church servicers was basically saying that he used the breath of God to blow and destroy coronavirus, and that is dangerous because then people believe that that's a thing you can't do. Dak Prescott, was it Dak? The two of the players from the Cowboys had like a 30-person party in Dallas at one
Wow.
point,
Why?
and but because some people just don't pay attention
Care.
to this stuff.
They just don't care. They don't think it's gonna happen to them, so they just do it anyway, you know?
Like we all know people that are if we don't know directly people that are immunocompromised, um we might know people, through
Yeah.
friends that are immunocompromised. My grandparents both are older. They both have health problems. They're immunocompromised. Tara here from the station, she has diabetes. She's immunocompromised. Even my aunt and my little cousin, they both have respiratory issues with asthma. They're at risk if they were, God forbid, they were ever sick. Um, like it's rough. My girlfriend's mom is not only an essential worker, but she already dealt with breast cancer, and she's always going to be immunocompromised because of that.
Yeah.
Like you gotta be unselfish with the times that we have right now.
And
You gotta.
mindful, because even if you think you'll survive it, even if you think that it's not gonna happen to you, everyone just has to be mindful of those people who might have those immunocompromised diseases that makes them more susceptible and can possibly cause them more harm. And it's what, like you said, they have to be less selfish and more selfless,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
But I I appreciate the way that the local governments have been handling it and state governments. We are seeing that social distancing works. We are flattening the curve by remaining distant and not gathering big groups in most cases.
Mhm.
Um, we
Definitely.
have that meeting with governors from New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, who are working together currently to draw up plans for reopening. Cuomo is heading that collective of Eastern governors, and Western governors in states like California, Oregon, and Washington are honestly working on their own plans. And I think that's very important, that the fact that they're coming together. We do obviously, Trump is not happy because he believes that he should be the one handling all this. But these state governors know what's going on in their own government and know what's going on in their own areas, and I feel like they have a pretty good grasp on things.
I agree.
Um,
I definitely
Yeah.
agree with that.
and before we shift gears into less, I wouldn't say depressing news, but less serious news, we can talk about there was there was an election in Wisconsin during the pandemic. The Wisconsin Supreme Court had an election, and that um, so we had liberal Dane County Judge Jill Karofsky defeated the conservative Justice Daniel Kelly, incumbent backed by Trump, in a race for a 10-year seat on the state's Supreme Court. This is from CNBC. The outcome is an embarrassment for state and national Republicans who had blocked Democratic Governor Tony Evers' bid to postpone the election and have it conducted by mail, which has been a big, big problem right now. The Supreme Court itself in the U.S. While voting electronically and voting from home, said that the rest of us couldn't vote from home when it came to elections, that we still had to go to election sites. So you had, lines of people social distancing in Wisconsin, people with masks, waiting to get the election. The Republicans were very adamant on trying to keep their Republican candidate and justice on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And, obviously manipulating the fact that not everyone right now can come out and vote. But I think this is a big step in making sure that when the primaries come, if we're in different states, if we're still in quarantine and social distancing, that everyone gets the opportunity to vote and everyone's able to stay home and be safe, but also exercise their right as an American to put out a vote, because it's kind of rough. But we have some interesting news when it comes to schools. Students are suing their colleges for coronavirus-related funds. We have two different class action lawsuits, one in Drexel University and one in the University of Miami, filed in the South Carolina federal court under the representation of South Carolina-based NS Topolo law firm. They're trying to get some sort of reimbursement for the fact that schools have been closed. In-person lecture instructions, obviously, we're obviously not in class right now. We're at home, and whenever we have classes, we're usually doing Zoom, or professors are sending us narrated lectures. We're not going to Montclair State because we're being safe and social distancing.
Yeah, there were, especially on our campus, I found like we actually had like a decent amount of cases after leaving.
Yes, there was a decent amount.
Which I said, because they didn't release a lot of information about it, which I don't know if we really expected that, but I was just like, there were so many cases, like, who knows? Like, the way I've been thinking about it, like, yeah, I've been home, my family's we're staying healthy, but we all could have been subjected to it, which I think is, like, a little crazy.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is there's a petition for MSU to reimburse us as well, which is interesting because our spring semester began normally in comparison to other places. Some may have a different schedule. And I think something that gets lost in the mix of all this is the effect this has on professors. I mean, we work with a professor, Annabella, our general manager, is also a professor on campus, and we speak to other professors on a daily basis, whether we're doing it through Zoom, whether we're talking to our advisors. I have an advising meeting on Thursday for classes, and you have to wonder, are they still getting paid the same? Because they're still doing their full job.
That's a really good point, actually, because how do professors get paid to begin with? Like, does our tuition go towards them getting paid, or is that something else? Because if they're reimbursing us, then
who gets the money? If they're reimbursing us, how do the professors get paid?
Exactly. So that's why I'm like, they're still doing their jobs because they're teaching from home, just like we're learning from home. So at the same time, like, yeah, we should get reimbursed, but on the other hand, how are they getting paid if we're getting our money back?
Mm-hmm. And there's the difference between the payment an adjunct and a full-time professor gets. Full-time is obviously getting their regular pay, but they could furlough adjunct professor or pay them for teaching each class. And we have a unique perspective thanks to our general manager because of the fact that she's a professor, so she's able to give us information in order for us to be better informed. And I think a very good question is whether or not it's right, if the suing of the school is right or not. And I understand the frustration. Let's get it out of the way. Like, it's rough right now. I understand, like, you're paying for certain things. The school's already offering prorated refunds for housing if you're not staying on campus, and for parking, which is definitely a step forward. And I understand prorating it.
Like housing and I think the rest of your meal plan, they talked about a refund, or like you would get like 3 credits for the next semester.
Yes.
Which would be useful for everyone who's going back, I feel like.
And then now they're offering, I think we just got an email yesterday saying they're offering up to $3,000 worth of Pell Grant that can now be applied towards summer classes. If you took at least, I think it was 18 credits last semester, which is good. That helps out as much as it can. It's just difficult because I understand the frustrations, and we're already getting refunds. Like, prorated refunds are the fairest that they can do, because if you're expecting a full refund for housing and a full refund for parking, like, you were here on campus living or parking from the end of January up until spring break.
Yeah,
right?
so you were there for like half the semester already.
You used that amount. So if you're getting it prorated to when school is officially closed, that is fair, I think,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, I'm pretty sure that's what Montclair did. Like, the only reimbursing up to when we had to send everyone home, right? I think.
yeah, and I think it's very important that their staff is paid. The staff at Montclair is being paid because the staff is teaching, and the staff that's working on campus is essential workers. Um, we'll it's gonna be rough thinking about what happens this summer with the amount of classes that come in, and the fact that there's going to be a lot of classes that may um, just go down in attendance, and Montclair may not be willing to hold those classes with such a low amount of students. There are already some classes that have a problem staying afloat with the amount of students. I know I was a Portuguese minor at one point, and for 2 semesters, I was trying to take classes necessary for the minor, and they had to cancel them because not enough people joined in. I think it was like a minimum of anywhere from 5 to 10 students had to be in the class for it to continue. And I imagine now with this, like I've had classes with like, you know, sometimes only 10, 15 students, and those are able to go through. And I imagine with, if these next 2 semesters, especially, like those kind of classes are going to have a struggle. Like obviously large lecture classes are still going to be available, classes that have 20 plus people at least, but it's going to be rough. And you're going to imagine, people who are graduating college now, um, people that are graduating high school now, I should say, what their decision is going to be if they're going to take a gap year and if they're not going to go to school right away because of what's going on. And, it's rough. I think it's important to think about if we think that the students suing now is something that's right. And if we can understand their point of view, they are getting instruction in a way they didn't sign up for, of course. But I feel like not just ourselves, my girlfriend is studying at University of Miami, she just came back up, but I feel like professors are doing their best to accommodate us in the schools themselves. I know I have one professor that he canceled every remaining assignment except the final paper and gave everyone full
Oh,
credit.
wow.
So we still have to
I
do
wish.
a 3,000 word paper,
Fuck
but
2,000 pages.
jeez, good lord, no. 3,000 word paper, but like our final grade, everyone got 100 for the final. Everyone got 100
Yeah.
for the last remaining assignments because he replaced quizzes with reading assignments. Like, we have other
That's a really
professors.
good professor.
Yeah, he's also my advisor, which is good. I think Professor Hugh Kernet. I don't know if you've had him yet.
I haven't had him, but I know who he is.
Yeah, so he did, like, full credit to Professor Kernet. He did really well, and a lot of other professors in accommodating, students. I know Professor Kelshaw has been pretty good with people, being a
We
little more lenient.
we
Um,
honestly have like some of the most amazing professors I think like ever, because they're willing to go through like the ends of whatever just to make things easier for us, and I find that really amazing. And I'm honestly gonna be sad when I have to graduate, whatever graduation is, and like I'm gonna be sad when I have to actually leave all of them, because it's the best experience I've had, and I'm gonna miss everyone so much.
yeah,
Yeah.
Montclair has been pretty great, and I can really appreciate it. Well, the work everyone's doing and the work people who are working in other parts of campus that isn't just teaching is doing to keep everything running. I think we could.
Everyone.
It's
Everyone.
great. I think we can pivot real quick to this story about hospitals in New Jersey using antibodies of the affected, of the recovered in coronavirus. So obviously people who have been able to recover from coronavirus will have antibodies. That's kind of how the body works. If you deal with a disease and you live the disease, or when you receive a vaccine, your body identifies the way in which it can fight them. And researching these antibodies are already one good way to fight them. It's a treatment called clinical convalescent plasma. The trials are being held right now in places like Hackensack University Medical Center, Valley Hospital in Ridgewood, and University Hospital here in Newark, and St. Barnabas Medical Center. They've been a few different patients have been infused with plasma drawn from recovered coronavirus patients, and they're just really looking at the results that are going to happen, the results that come out of this.
So they're basically trying to see like if after getting the virus, if they become immune to it, or, like they can't get it again.
Immune, or I guess what the more hope is that having these antibodies while you have the disease, will it help you fight the disease better and improve your chances of survival? Obviously,
Okay.
the fatality rate of this disease is not, incredibly high, but there's still enough people dying that this is worth treatment. Like,
Yeah.
Obviously, if you have, obviously they're making sure that the plasma and everything does, work with your body, because if you can get things like organ donation rejections, you can get blood rejections if it's not the correct blood type. You have a patient, 85-year-old Gary Reimer, currently on ventilator, and they're trying to. He's one of the different patients that they're testing.
I wouldn't be surprised if they like made a coronavirus vaccine, kind of like to do with like the chicken pox and the flu shot and all of that. If they made that, the COVID-19 vaccine, and then made everybody go and get it.
Yeah,
They tested a vaccine in Seattle a few months ago.
That's
when
the
this
problem
initially
with
started.
Yeah, the vaccines are rough because that takes time. You need to wait
Yeah.
for that to develop. Like, it's at least a year usually that it takes to see the results, because you not only want to see if it works on the virus, you also want to make sure that there's no negative effects. Like, yeah, you can have a situation like where you have a vaccine that works fantastic and does its job, and then it slowly kills you from the inside as well. Like,
Yeah.
like a pretty hyperbolic hyperbolic way to do it. And I think the other problem that arises is trying to get everyone to take it, because we already have a lot of movements against taking mandated vaccines. I imagine there would be people that will think, well, I don't want to take it, so I'm going to rely on things like herd immunity to keep me safe, which kind of brings in that quandary, like, are we going to force people to take this across the board? How many people will be eligible for it? How many people might not be able to get it because of certain health factors? Ooh, voice crack at 25, that's rough. But we already have the FDA asking for plasma donations from recovered patients. There's a quote here. They're trying to find everything that they can. Like, the right now there's a description from the FDA itself on how this works. Convalescent plasma is a liquid part of blood that is collected from patients who have recovered from the novel coronavirus disease COVID-19 caused by the SARS-CoV-2. That's the specific name. And the antibodies are proteins that help fight the infection. There's no approved treatment, but according to the FDA, there is research and information that suggests it could help. So you can, if there's anyone that's recovered, they give information about contacting the Red Cross or the local blood center about donating. And I feel like as long as this isn't something that's actively killing people trying to do it, might as well try it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a reason these things are approved for trials. It's because they have information that shows that it could work. But let's move on to this next article from the New York Times. This is going to kill small town America, and then there's a lakeside town of 3,300 people in Bristol.
All those
And
small towns. I can't even imagine what's happening with like all this. Like, I'm even in like a genuinely small town area, kind of like, and like we're holding up just fine. But I can't even
Yeah.
imagine what like even the smaller like towns that have like 100 or so people living in them, like how they're holding up right now.
Yeah, basically what's going on now is they have a factory right now, which is still running strong. It employs 350 people. It's a Freudenberg factory out of Germany, and it's working there. Um, it's the largest also this factory is the largest customer of Bristol's sewage and water systems, which is a big important part of their budget. But you have hundreds of people in that town losing jobs. You have hundreds, not hundreds, but you have different gift shops, yoga studio restaurants closing. Like, that's a lot going on in a very tiny town.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3,300 people. It's a town in New Hampshire. And I think as far as New Hampshire is up north from us, you can connect it here to New Jersey, because not just small towns in like North, Central, and South Jersey, but you have the Jersey Shore. The Jersey Shore is such an important part of not just New Jersey's economy, but the lifeblood of people down the South. Like, we have already an executive order from Murphy for people not to go down to their seasonal homes down in the Jersey Shore. We have, those rentals that give so much money to the people who live down there. Not to mention the seasonal shops and everything. Because if you ever go down the shore, or you live down the shore outside of the seasonal areas, like, it's empty. There's nothing there. Like, just the people who live there. So their money comes from people not only coming from all across New Jersey, but from New York, Pennsylvania. I mean, you even have people coming from Ontario and Quebec in Canada to the Jersey Shore. Like,
That's
that's a
insane.
like. Can you imagine the economic? I can't imagine the economic impact this is going to have for people across the Jersey Shore.
Like, I'm like in my head right now. I'm like asking myself, are they okay? Like, I I can't even fathom having to deal with that right now, especially being in one of those small areas. Like, the Jersey Shore, man.
The
I
Jersey Shore is iconic, to say the least. Um, like, it is probably one of the biggest parts of New Jersey. Um, really, New Jersey is an interesting state because we have just about every aspect in terms of um, things like ecosystems, aside from like a tundra or a desert.
Yeah.
You can go skiing in the mountains here. You can, go to the beaches. You can go to farmland. You can go to the Pine Barrens, and either see the New Jersey Devil, or hope you don't run into, you know, a burial, because Pine Barrens has a very checkered history in terms of illicit activity. But the Jersey Shore is just such an important part, and the beaches we have here in New Jersey are just so beautiful. But we can't go right now. Like, everything's closed. We're not supposed to congregate on beaches, and that is the lifeblood of the Jersey Shore. Like, boardwalks like Seaside and Wildwood, like, they're shut down. There's nothing going on there. Those vendors aren't making any money, and obviously they're not going to be open now. This is not the season yet. But
like in the
if
summertime, if this is still going on, like I always crave going to the beach in the summertime because I live all the way in Pennsylvania, so it takes me a couple hours to even get to the shore. But I crave it every single summer. Like, once it hits like July to August, I want to go to the beach. And if I can't do that this year, I'm going to cry because I love the beach.
when Memorial Day hits, that's going to be the roughest part, because
Yeah.
Memorial Day is the opening of the shore, not literally, but the opening of the shore in terms of the vacation time, and people coming down from as far as like Quebec and Ontario in Canada. Like, for reference, Ontario is like north of places like Minnesota and Michigan. Like, that's close to the Midwest right there. Still within the Eastern
Yeah.
time zone, but close to the Midwest. And like, you're driving, I think if you were to drive to Montreal right now in Quebec, it would take you about 8 hours. So people will drive 8 hours or more all the way down here just to come to the Jersey Shore and give us money and patronize us. So that's a lot of money they're going to miss out on, and that's going to be rough.
Yeah, ugh.
Just, And just kind of going forward, in terms of news, like, because we have a lot to talk about, and we've been talking about just a lot of stuff. Um, I found an interesting thing while I was trying to put together some of the news for today. Um, we use websites obviously like AP News that are free to access, NJ.com, News 12, and we also use news sites like the New York Times and Washington Post, who normally rely on subscriptions. And every month you get 5 free articles to access until a paywall goes up. And it always happens, nothing you can complain about. But I find it a little more striking now during the coronavirus pandemic. It's harder to get news just because of the fact we're at home, and because of the fact that so much of news now on TV is just the coronavirus stuff, that when you try to go to these websites, and you try to get access, you'll go to these websites, you'll use them for a month. Like it's what, April 14th, and I've already used up all 5 articles from both the Washington Post and the New York Times. It becomes difficult to try to find news outside of the coronavirus right away, right now.
Yeah.
That as I was yesterday trying to find articles, I couldn't even open half the articles because a lot of them were from the New York Post and other websites like that do, expect you to subscribe. And I understand that. I'm not questioning their business practices. I'm not questioning, calling them greedy or anything. But it's just difficult, and it makes you think more and more how news subscriptions have become a little more limited because of the move to digital, and just how so important news is right now for us to access, and so important for us to support news outlets. Like we have a few articles that we use today from the New York Times that I can't access, and I know the coronavirus news from the New York Times is free. It's other
the
news
other
articles.
ones.
It's the other ones that I've been trying to access in terms of stuff about economic issues, stuff about if there's any updates in sports. I do have The Athletic is gave out a 3-month subscription for anyone who's interested during all this, and the New York Times did have a $1 a week news subscription. But it makes you more aware of the importance of news. It makes you more aware of the impact of with the kind of reporting that the New York Times does. Like, I'm not trying to complain. Like, that's not why I'm on a soapbox right now. I'm not trying to complain about that stuff. I'm just saying it makes you aware of the importance of these makes it aware of the importance of not just the work that we do, because we do take news from different news providers, but important to be able to stay informed on every aspect of what's going on across the world now. That you forget how you take for granted the access that we have on the internet as it is. It just kind of hit me today. Like this is something we dealt with beforehand, but like I don't know why it hit me today that like I'm suddenly like, oh wait, I can only get 5 articles from the New York Times. It was just weird. But anyway, let's go on to something I think we could all talk a little bit more. There's the Chicago Tribune article titled "Making Music at a Distance: How to Come Together Online to Spark Your Creativity," talking about members of the University of South Florida, the School of Music, talking about how they're working with making music while they're at home. And I think we can probably really relate to this, especially you, Hallie. While do you work with, is it just yourself working on music, or do you work with other people as well?
I do everything myself. I do different things, and I just make a circle. It's me, myself, and I.
So for you, it's, aside from being at home more often, it's business as usual when you make your music, right?
For the most part, but also like I'm working a lot harder on music now because I have so much time. Like there's no like I'm not like doing half the job. I feel like I'm doing like 3 times more work because I have more time to do it.
So
But
in that aspect, I guess you have a pretty good thing going for you.
oh yeah, I actually released an EP yesterday. Not to plug, no one has to listen to it.
I mean, we plugged it last week already as it
No,
is.
I know.
But
I-
it's
but
it's it's
yeah,
interesting to see now because of the accessibility of technology. It's so much easier to collaborate with people,
Mhm.
yeah,
especially when you have more time. But I think the only limitation is there is whether or not we notice that there is a delay when we communicate through these kind of voice chats and video chats. So I wonder how artists actually get together and make sure they're like in sync 24/7.
oh yeah, I have no
That's
idea.
that's what I'm wondering because I saw on Facebook, like I think like last week or 2 weeks ago, that Millersville University, like one of the singing groups did like an entire thing, like an entire singing thing, singing a song "Bridge Over Troubled Water," like completely a cappella over one of these Zoom chats. And I have no idea how they did it because there's always going to be a sync issue. So it sounded amazing, and I don't know how they did it, but I it's I was speechless after listening to it. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, that's like when Hamilton sang one of their songs over Zoom. Like,
Yeah, we had that in one of our morning buzz sessions. I think it was last week or the week
yeah,
before,
I think it was last
um,
week.
where you have these like people were able to communicate so well. And there was during that iHeartRadio stay at home concert, um, was it was Backstreet Boys that were performing together and they sing in unison. Now the Hamilton one was a little bit easier because a lot of it was them going one by one. But with Backstreet Boys, a big part of it is them harmonizing and singing the chorus together. So you have to imagine like the amount of mental work it takes for them to sit there and be able to 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 keep the delay in mind when they're singing together. You know, we know now that Fender is offering 3 months of free guitar lessons for everyone who needs it. So Danny, you can take advantage of that.
I might. I honestly might if I can, cause like I don't know. I want to learn to play guitar so I can actually start like posting covers on YouTube and Facebook just because of my boredom. So we'll see how that goes.
do it.
Do it. Like,
Do
I
it.
mean, like
I'm a terrible singer, but I'll try it anyway. Cause why not?
some of the best musicians don't sing. Like, you look at Slash from Guns N' Roses. He doesn't sing. He just shreds on his guitar
Yeah.
24/7. That's about it.
Fair enough.
Um, let's talk about this. Let's go back to some good news. Good News Network, who always has some great articles. John Krasinski started this news network, um, and they have an article on Uh, teens launch hotline for isolated seniors to listen to pre-recorded jokes, stories, and messages of hope. It's called the Joy for All Project, launched by students from the Everactive Schools Recreational Leadership Program run by the Calgary Board of Education. So this is out of Canada. Um, they they say specifically it was created for quarantine seniors across North America, but they do encourage everyone. The phone line is 1-877 Joy for All. It's regularly updated selections of jokes, stories, guided mediations, and educational messages. Launched earlier this week, and the content will be updated until June, depending on how social restrictions continue. They say they're going to keep uh, adding more and more content um, as this continues until adults are free. And I think this is such a nice little thing that they're doing. Like they didn't have to do this. They didn't have to put time in to take a phone number down. This is content you have to record. It's not like, they have someone on the phone, waiting to answer. This is like, I imagine this is hours upon hours and upon hours of content that has to be recorded, has to be edited, then uploaded, and then, whatever database is used has to be, monitored and serviced throughout throughout the weeks. Like that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work for something you're doing completely for free for no one's benefit but other people and not yourself. Like that, I love that. I personally love that. um just to be able to have these, people are by themselves a lot of times. I have a couple friends who they're not able to stay home, not that able to stay home, but they live by themselves, or they live with maybe a roommate. and they talk about how it's a little difficult, having to sit through social distancing because there's not a lot of interaction with other people. Like, I'm lucky enough to be with my mom and my sister, my grandparents, or with my aunt and my uncle. But, the way people are trying to stay positive is admirable, because it's not easy, especially when you're dealing with mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's very, very, very difficult. And I know personally, there are some days that aren't as great, but I try my best day in, day out to, at the very minimum, do something to keep my spirits up.
Especially going off of the mental health thing, because like with myself, I've always struggled with like depression in the past, so it's very hard for me to try to stay out of that depressive mindset when I'm stuck at home, not really able to do anything. So I take it upon myself to go for walks, or just go for a drive and try to get my head in the like get some fresh air to get my head in the right space, so I can come back home and be completely refreshed and able to do anything I need to do. But it is very important that people stay positive right now, because we all need to be there for each other and have each other's backs, because nobody's having a fun time right now.
Yeah.
I know, especially with people that might have partners. I know, I haven't seen my girlfriend since spring break, which was, I think the last time I saw her was, I don't even remember, middle
Yeah,
of March.
Oh no.
I haven't seen my boyfriend in like a month, so
Yeah,
it's been rough.
yeah, it was, I think, around the 12th or something that I last saw her. And then even then, she went down to Miami, had to go back to classes and everything. She went to talk to, a professor, about an internship in the summer that now may or may not happen. Even my sister's having problems with what's going to happen with internships. Um, but she's back in New Jersey, but that doesn't mean I can see her. She's at
Yeah.
home with her parents. Her parents are both essential workers and stuff like that. And we're doing movie nights, not just me and my girlfriend, but me and other friends. Like, I think we're going to be watching My Neighbor Totoro sometime this week, because
It's actually a good one. I saw that in theaters.
I've only seen 2 Studio Ghibli movies up until now. I
Okay.
saw Spirited Away when it used to air on Cartoon Network all the time, and then the last time I was with my girlfriend, I saw Howl's Moving Castle, which I loved. So it's cool now to be able to do this kind of stuff, even if I'm not, you know, staying at home. With my girlfriend, I can actually, do video chat and stuff like that.
Yeah, taking
Yeah.
advantage of Skype and FaceTime is extremely important. But yeah, Hallie, how are you staying positive with all of this?
I've just been, well, on the topic of people, like, I don't have a boyfriend, but like I have a lot of like just really close friends that I'm always talking to. Like my friend Chase lives in PA. He's right by Blue Mountain. And that's like an hour and 15. And I'm usually like, him and I will hang out and I'll like go see my other friends. So now it's just like I usually am on FaceTime with like 2 different people throughout the day. And then I'm just like working out, spending a lot of fun time with my family. As the days go, I see all of like my mannerisms that I get from my parents. It's an experience over here.
I completely understand, because me too.
I
It's
was
unbelievable.
my dad got so mad at me because I was just around the house. Like, I'm one of those people, like, I don't know if it's because I'm more extroverted. It might be like me sitting in one place for hours and
Yeah.
I start like just thinking and I run through like my entire life. It bugs me. So I'll walk around my house and my dad will be like, "Can you shut up? Can you stop talking?" He's like, "You're driving me crazy." And I
We've
was
been doing family movie nights every Friday now, Friday or Saturday with my fam. So we started with a movie my sister wanted to watch. We watched Wall-E because my mom hadn't seen it yet, and just this last Friday,
wait,
uh, my mom hadn't seen Wall-E yet. She slept through it because she fell asleep.
sounds like my mom during
She was
Jurassic
she was
World.
really tired. Like, I'll cut her some slack. And then this past Friday, we watched Parasite, which was absolutely fantastic movie. I think all the praise that it got online was 100% deserved. But
Yeah.
it is right now the top of the hour here at 90.3 WMSC from Montclair and on Facebook as well. It is 10 a.m. Today is April 14th. I want to thank, of course, Danny for co-hosting, Hallie for doing the newscast, of course, Annabella. We have our general manager is working behind the scenes, as well as Amanda, Jeremy Wall. We have Adam, putting us through the airwaves and putting us on 90.3. We're here every single weekday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. So tomorrow we'll have another buzz with another set of people working. And I hope everyone tunes in, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's iHeartRadio or terrestrial radio. But yeah, we're gonna wrap up the show real quick and just wait for us tomorrow. And I think we're gonna throw on the theme of waiting, we're gonna probably throw it to a quick Mumford and Sons song called "I Will Wait for You." But we will be back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. again, and the three of us will be back here next Tuesday, same time, same place, to give you whatever news we can and keep giving you content for the rest of this current social distancing.